When a narcissist leaves, they often believe they've upgraded. The new supply looks shinier, more exciting, easier to control. They convince themselves this time will be different. But behind the mask, it's the same old cycle. The biggest mistake they make is thinking the new supply is better than the one they discarded. In reality, they're only running from their own emptiness, chasing illusions that will always collapse in time. At first, the narcissist feels triumphant. They flaunt the new relationship, hoping you notice and feel regret. They compare, gloat, and brag, convinced they've made a superior choice. To outsiders, it may look like they've found happiness, but the truth is, this is only the honeymoon phase, the same phase you once experienced. It's not real love, it's a performance. And like every performance, it eventually ends, leaving nothing but emptiness. The narcissist's worst mistake is underestimating your value. They believe someone else will give them more admiration, more obedience, more validation. They assume you were replaceable, but what they fail to see is that what they had with you was never about you. It was about the effort you poured in. You gave energy, empathy, and understanding. The new supply may not offer the same depth, and without it, cracks begin to form quickly. In their arrogance, narcissists believe they've traded up. They convince themselves the new supply is easier, more attractive, or more useful. But this belief is rooted in illusion. They see people as objects, not souls. They fail to recognize that genuine connection can't be manufactured. Eventually, the truth hits. No matter how many new partners they find, none of them fill the void inside, and that realization shatters their fantasy of superiority. The new supply often becomes a mirror of the narcissist's patterns. At first, they'll be love-bombed, showered with attention, and made to feel special. But soon, they'll see the same manipulation, gaslighting, and devaluation you once endured. The narcissist thought they found someone better, but really they've only reset the cycle, and every time it resets, it grows weaker. Their worst mistake is believing that changing people will fix what's broken inside them. Meanwhile, the narcissist secretly checks if you're watching. They hope the display of their better life reaches your eyes. They want you to feel jealous, abandoned, or defeated. But as time passes, they notice something unsettling. You're healing. You're not chasing them, not competing, not begging to come back. Their belief in the new supply is better begins to wobble. Because the more you shine, the more their decision looks like a mistake. The truth is, narcissists never really replace anyone. They repeat patterns. The new supply isn't better, they're just different. But narcissists don't see people. They see fuel. And fuel eventually runs out. Their worst mistake is believing fresh fuel equals permanent satisfaction. It never does. They'll drain, discard, and repeat only to realize too late that the problem was never you. It was their inability to face their own emptiness. In time, the mask slips with the new supply. The same arguments, the same lies, the same emotional starvation appear. The narcissist grows bored, restless, or dissatisfied. They begin to wonder if they made the wrong choice. This is when regret creeps in. Believing the new supply was better blinds them to reality, and reality always catches up. They find themselves trapped in the same misery they thought they'd escaped by discarding you. The narcissist's greatest mistake is forgetting that people aren't interchangeable. They thought swapping you out would solve their problems. But relationships aren't cars to be traded or outfits to be replaced. What made the connection meaningful wasn't you tolerating abuse. It was your genuine love, patience, and resilience. Once gone, it cannot be replicated. The new supply might try, but it will never match the depth of what you once gave. Their arrogance blinds them to consequences. Narcissists assume people will always be waiting, always available. They think leaving you for the new supply makes them powerful. But when they eventually turn back and realize you've moved on, the shock is devastating. Their mistake wasn't just in overvaluing the new supply. It was in underestimating your ability to heal, grow, and never look back. That is the cruelty they never expected to face. As the honeymoon with the new supply fades, The narcissist grows restless. The adoration doesn't feel as sweet anymore. The compliments aren't enough, and the obedience becomes boring. They start craving the thrill of control they once had with you. But the cruel irony is this: the more they chase excitement in new supply, the less satisfied they become. Their worst mistake is believing novelty equals fulfillment. It never lasts. It only leaves them emptier. The narcissist secretly compares the new supply to you. They notice differences, both big and small. Maybe the new person doesn't laugh at the same jokes, doesn't tolerate the same outbursts, or doesn't give the same attention. At first, they deny the comparisons, but as time passes, they can't help but measure the new against the old. The belief that the new supply was better becomes shaky, because deep down, they know you're unforgettable. Jealousy begins to creep in, even with a new partner by their side. The narcissist secretly wonders what you're doing. They stalk quietly, scrolling through old photos, replaying memories, or asking mutual friends. If they see you happy, it unsettles them. They thought they'd moved on to something better. But your strength makes them doubt themselves. This jealousy exposes their worst mistake. They never truly replaced you, because replacement was never possible. The new supply often starts to question things. They notice inconsistencies, lies, or emotional distance. At first, they ignore the red flags, blinded by love bombing. But eventually, they begin to see the truth. The narcissist feels the shift, and panic sets in. Their belief that the new supply was better unravels quickly, because once the mask slips, the cycle begins again. And no matter who the partner is, the result is always the same. Narcissists live for validation. The new supply provides it for a while, but eventually it fades. They start to feel unsatisfied, just like they did with you. The constant need for attention can never be filled, no matter who's standing beside them. This is their fatal flaw. Their worst mistake isn't just choosing the new supply, it's believing anyone could permanently soothe the emptiness they refuse to confront within themselves. The narcissist's arrogance convinces them they can endlessly recycle partners. But reality hits when they realize not everyone tolerates mistreatment. The new supply may stand up, set boundaries, or even leave faster than expected. This shocks the narcissist. They assumed they could mold them into the perfect source of fuel. Instead, they see rebellion, resistance, or rejection. Believing they upgraded turns into humiliation. Their worst mistake becomes painfully obvious. People aren't replaceable toys. The narcissist often paints the new supply as a prize. They want the world to see their better choice. But when reality hits, that prize doesn't shine as bright. The validation they expected from showing off fades, and suddenly they feel exposed. Everyone who witnessed their grand display eventually notices the cracks. What was meant to humiliate you becomes their own embarrassment. Their mistake wasn't just arrogance, it was believing their illusion could last. Over time, the narcissist realizes the new supply doesn't know them as well as you did. They miss the familiarity, the way you once anticipated moods or calmed storms. The new person can't read them the same way. And instead of feeling satisfied, they feel frustrated. This frustration grows into regret. Their worst mistake was taking your empathy for granted, because once gone, they discover it can't be replaced by someone newer, shinier, or different. Regret often hides beneath their pride. Outwardly, they may brag about their choices, but in quiet moments they feel the loss. They secretly replay the stability you once gave them, the way you absorbed their storms. The new supply doesn't provide the same cushion, and so they spiral, resenting the new while missing the old. Their worst mistake becomes clear. In chasing better, they lost the best they ever had, even if they'll never admit it aloud. The narcissist's belief in the superiority of the new supply is a form of denial. It's easier to claim they upgraded than to admit they destroyed something meaningful. This belief shields their ego from shame, but denial can't last forever. Eventually, reality pierces through, and when it does, the narcissist faces the crushing truth. The new supply wasn't better. It was just another chapter in their endless cycle of emptiness. What makes this mistake even worse is the way it exposes their patterns. Others start to notice the repetition. Friends, family, even the new supply begin to see the cycle. The narcissist can't hide forever. Their behavior becomes predictable. Idealize, devalue, discard, repeat. The belief that the new supply was better only highlights the truth. They never grow, never change. Their life is a carousel spinning endlessly with no real progress in sight. The narcissist may try to return to you. Once the glow of the new supply fades, suddenly they remember your patience, your strength, your empathy. They might test the waters, sending small messages or trying to reconnect. This is when their worst mistake becomes undeniable. They left something genuine for something superficial. And when they realize you've healed, moved on, and won't return, the weight of that mistake becomes unbearable for them. The new supply eventually learns the truth. At first, they believe the love bombing, but as the cycle turns, they begin to see the cracks. And when they reach out for help or validation, they may even discover your story. This revelation stings the narcissist. Their fantasy of a better life with a new supply crumbles under exposure. Their mistake wasn't just believing the new was better, it was underestimating how quickly the truth always surfaces. Deep down, narcissists know no one will ever be enough. They chase illusions, thinking the next person will finally complete them. But the emptiness inside is too vast. No amount of admiration, attention, or obedience can fix it. Their worst mistake is refusing to face themselves. Believing the new supply was better was just another way of avoiding the mirror. But mirrors don't lie forever, and eventually the reflection becomes impossible to ignore. The narcissist's mistake is also in thinking people don't change. They assume you'll always be the same, waiting and longing. But when they return to test the waters, they often find someone transformed. You're stronger, wiser, and less forgiving. This transformation shocks them. They thought they could discard and return at will. Instead, they find the door locked. Believing the new supply was better blinded them to your evolution, and that blindness cost them everything. Sometimes, the narcissist tries to pit the new supply against you, using comparison as a weapon. They brag about how the new person does things differently or better. But this only exposes their insecurity. If the new supply was truly better, they wouldn't need to mention you at all. Their constant comparisons prove their mistake. They can't stop thinking about you, even as they claim to have moved on. The shadow of regret follows them everywhere. The narcissist's biggest downfall is their inability to appreciate what they had while they had it. They assume the next person will give them the same loyalty, patience, and love. But loyalty can't be demanded, and empathy can't be manufactured. When they lose someone genuine, they eventually realize the depth of their mistake. The new supply may provide excitement, but it never lasts. And once gone, the memory of what they destroyed haunts them. In time, the narcissist often cycles back into misery. They chase new supply after new supply, each one failing to satisfy. The pattern is endless. Believing each new person is better becomes their downfall. Because the truth is, no one can heal the emptiness they refuse to face. Their worst mistake isn't just leaving you, it's believing anyone could ever fill the void that only self-reflection and change could address. And that's a step they never take. The new supply often faces the same heartbreak you once did. They enter with hope, but leave with scars. The narcissist mistake repeats again and again, hurting everyone involved. But while others suffer, the narcissist remains stuck, never growing, never healing. Believing the new was better doesn't just hurt them, it leaves a trail of broken hearts. Their worst mistake echoes through every relationship, proving that they are the source of their own misery. Ultimately, the narcissist's belief in better supply is an illusion that destroys them. They chase novelty, confuse lust with love, and mistake obedience for connection. But none of it lasts. Their worst mistake isn't simply choosing someone new. It's failing to recognize real value when it's right in front of them. And when they finally see the truth, it's too late, because while they remain trapped in cycles, you've moved on, free and unshaken. The narcissist secretly fears the comparison will not favor them. While they once bragged about the new supply, deep down they know others may see the downgrade. Friends, family, or even co-workers may quietly wonder why they left someone stable and kind for chaos. This silent judgment eats it. Their worst mistake becomes visible to everyone but themselves at first. And when they sense it, their pride cracks, fueling more denial and desperation. Believing the new supply was better blinds them to their own patterns. Instead of fixing their behavior, they project blame. The last one wasn't enough, but this one will be. Yet the cycle repeats. The mask slips, arguments begin, and the same wounds reopen. Each failed relationship chips away at their illusion of superiority. Their mistake wasn't just leaving you, it was refusing to face the reality that the problem has always been them. The narcissist's arrogance makes them underestimate your resilience. They thought you would crumble when replaced, but instead you heal, thrive, and glow. This reversal stings deeply. While they wrestle with the disappointment of a fading new supply, they secretly compare it to your growth. Their worst mistake becomes clearer each day. They traded someone evolving for someone temporary, and the contrast between your light and their emptiness haunts them constantly. When the new supply sees through them, the narcissist feels exposed. They're forced to repeat the same exhausting games, love bomb, manipulate, control. It becomes harder each time because people learn quicker, resist sooner, and leave faster. What once worked smoothly now falters. Believing the new supply was better becomes a joke. They can't escape. They're left facing the cruel reality. Every cycle weakens them, while every exit leaves them more hollow inside. They often return to the fantasy of you, even while with someone else. Memories creep in, your patience, your laughter, your ability to endure. They remember how much energy you gave, and realize the new supply doesn't provide the same. But pride keeps them silent. They can't admit their mistake aloud, so they bury it under arrogance. Still, the regret grows louder. Their belief in the new supply's superiority becomes their most painful delusion. In their attempt to prove they've moved on, narcissists often over-display happiness. Social media posts, public affection, exaggerated smiles, but behind the scenes, cracks show. The need to perform happiness is proof of their mistake. Genuine joy doesn't require an audience. Their obsession with appearances reveals the truth. They're trying to convince themselves the new supply is better, but deep down, they know it isn't. And that knowledge quietly destroys them. The narcissist mistake also costs them credibility. Others start noticing the pattern of replacements. Each time, it's the same story. This one is different. This one is better. But outsiders grow skeptical. When relationships crumble again and again, the narcissist's words lose weight. Their worst mistake becomes public knowledge. People see through the facade, and their reputation shifts from charming to unstable. The belief in better supply becomes a running lie no one buys anymore. The cycle of regret follows them endlessly. With each new supply, they convince themselves it will finally work. But the moment cracks appear, they look backward, remembering the people they discarded. They wonder if they should have stayed, if they lost something irreplaceable. Yet they never admit it openly. Their pride won't allow it. So they stay stuck in silence, haunted by the ghost of their choices. Their worst mistake becomes their permanent burden. The narcissist's arrogance makes them miss the simplest truth. Real connection cannot be replaced. They think loyalty and empathy are easy to find. But what you gave was rare: patience, compassion, and resilience in the face of chaos. Once gone, they search for it in others, but never find it. Believing the new supply was better blinds them to your uniqueness. And by the time they realize it's too late, the door is already closed. Believing the new supply was better often pushes them into reckless behavior. They spend money, show off, or overcommit to proving their upgrade. But this pressure cracks quickly. They can't sustain the image forever. The mask slips faster than before. What began as triumph turns into another failure. and each failure weighs heavier, reminding them of what they lost. Their worst mistake isn't just repeating the cycle, it's accelerating their own downfall. As the new supply grows disillusioned, the narcissist grows desperate. They sense the loss of control and scramble to regain it. But the harder they push, the quicker the mask collapses. What was once a better choice now feels like a trap. Their worst mistake becomes undeniable. They left someone who tolerated their chaos for someone who refuses to. And instead of gaining power, they lose it faster than they ever imagined. They may attempt to rewrite history, claiming they never said the new supply was better. But people remember their boasting, their flaunting, their arrogance. It's hard to erase. This rewriting of history only deepens their humiliation. Their worst mistake becomes a permanent stain on their story. No matter how much they deny, reality remains. They chose illusion over substance, and the illusion crumbled. That truth can't be hidden, no matter how many lies they tell. The narcissist regret often comes late at night when no one is watching. They scroll through old memories, replaying moments with you. They remember the times you forgave, the times you stayed, and the contrast with their current emptiness. Believing the new supply was better seemed brilliant in the moment. But alone in silence, they know the truth. Their arrogance cost them something they can't replace, and regret becomes their silent punishment. They also fear your indifference. If you've healed, moved on, and no longer care, their worst mistake becomes even more painful. They wanted you broken, longing, jealous. Instead, you're free. Your indifference proves their belief in better supply was a lie, because nothing makes their mistake clearer than your peace. The moment they realize you no longer think of them, their ego crumbles. And that realization cuts sharper than any revenge could. The narcissist mistake leaves them chasing ghosts. Each new supply becomes a shadow of the past, compared endlessly to you. They search for your empathy, your patience, your strength, but never find it. The harder they search, the more desperate they become. Believing the new was better blinds them to the truth. They destroyed their best chance, and while you live freely, they remain trapped, recycling illusions, forever unsatisfied, forever chasing what they lost. Eventually, their worst mistake teaches them nothing. Instead of growing, they repeat. They refuse to face the truth that the problem is within. Believing the new supply is better becomes their endless excuse. Each relationship fails, each mask slips, and still they blame others. This refusal to learn ensures their cycle never ends. Their mistake doesn't just cost them one relationship, it ensures they lose every meaningful connection they will ever have. Their arrogance blinds them to accountability. They don't stop to reflect, to ask why things fail. Instead, they move quickly to the next illusion. But with each failure, their charm weakens, their mask cracks faster, and their pool of options shrinks. Believing the new supply was better isn't just a mistake, it's a curse. Because every time they choose illusion over truth, they spiral deeper into emptiness. And emptiness is the one thing they can't escape. By the time the narcissist realizes the depth of their mistake, it's too late. You've moved on, grown stronger, and closed the door. Their chance to return is gone. They thought the new supply was better, but the truth is clear. They lost the only person who truly saw them and stayed. This realization haunts them endlessly. Because while you thrive in freedom, they remain trapped in cycles of regret, unable to undo the damage they caused. The tragedy of the narcissist is that they never see value in the moment. They only see it once it's gone. Believing the new supply was better is proof of their blindness. They chose fantasy over reality, illusion over substance. And by the time they wake up, the loss is permanent. Their worst mistake doesn't just define the past, it defines their future, locking them into endless repetition while you break free and move forward. In the end, the narcissist's worst mistake, believing the new supply was better, becomes their downfall. They thought they upgraded, but instead they downgraded into emptiness. They thought they replaced you, But instead, they expose their inability to value anyone. And while they stay trapped in regret, you rise. Their mistake was arrogance. Your strength is survival. And that contrast is the truth they can never escape. You won by letting go, while they lost by holding on to illusions.